What up, people? Welcome to another episode of the MySpace Effect, Building Influence and Impact. I'm your host, Herschel M, and thank you for joining me again tonight. Hope all is well. Hope you had a good weekend. If you've been following us these last few weeks, probably have done one of the most vulnerable, honest series regarding when love fails. We talked about heartbreak, betrayal, endings, and how to rebuild rightly. But one of the things I was thinking about is, when once love fails or life hits hard, the next question in all of that is not what happened to me, but rather, how do I handle what's happening inside of me? You see what I'm saying? You go through all this stuff, you make it through it, but then you still have some things inside you have to handle, because unhealed emotions don't just disappear. They can happen to disguise themselves. That's what they can do. And that's why today's topic, I want to talk about emotional intelligence, because I've been meaning to talk about this earlier in the podcast episodes, but just so many different things to tackle. I'm just like, this is the right time to deal with it. And so we'll be talking about learning to master what moves us, to stop letting emotions run our life, our leadership, and our relationships.
Welcome to MySpace. You did not have to come by, but you came by.
Self-control matures into emotional intelligence. Self-control matures into emotional intelligence. Before you can manage relationships, you have to manage reactions. And when it comes to self-control, it's not something that is suppressed. It's really submission. Yeah. Some people think it is suppression. No, you're surrendering, you're submitting. Even from a biblical aspect, it's what one called a fruit of the Spirit. It's the first step towards emotional maturity. People who lack self-control end up explaining behavior that could have been avoided. So, for example, have you ever just text somebody too quick, said something, post something out of anger, shut down, withdraw when you get hurt? That's been me. See, this is what happens when emotions drive and maturity rides in the back seat. What am I saying? Basically, if you don't learn to master your emotions will master your moments. Yeah. So that's why it's so vital. So I mentioned I want to talk about emotional intelligence. One has to ask, what is emotional intelligence? From a technical term, it's broken down into 4 parts, 4 layers, if you will. Number 1, self-awareness. Knowing what you feel, and most importantly, why. Why? Number 2, self-regulation. That is, being able to pause before you react. That's a lot of struggle today for many people, because again, they look at that as suppression, but it's really submission, because it's self-control, self-regulation, being able to, that's what maturity is, ability, being able to pause before you react. Number 3, empathy. That is, seeing how your words and actions affect others. That is something that is like a pandemic, epidemic nowadays. It's a lot of love loss. It's a lot of empathy loss. I know for myself, I've dealt with people where when it comes to their emotions, oh yeah, we're going to focus center of attention. When it's time to be quiet and listen to somebody else, I ain't got time for it. I recently had a conversation with an individual, called ourselves trying to reconcile, and bumped heads because when it was time for me to listen to you, I sat back, I listened, but then when it was time for me to explain and share, you had time for it. It was full of presumptions. You already knew what I was about to say, or here's the big thing, I don't want to rehearse my past. I already know. I've already, stuff like that. That lacks empathy, because you don't have enough patience to let a person have their moment. Yeah, and you have to hijack and rob them of their moment. And that's so wrong. I can go down so many different examples, but the empathy in this day and time, our society, it's lacking. And it's the key to so many opportunities for healing, connection, intimacy, and much more. But yes, being able to see how your words and actions affect others. And then number 4, the fourth layer of what emotional intelligence is social skill. Navigating the relationship with grace and not guilt trips. Every great leader that I know over the years that I've encountered isn't just smart. They're emotionally smart. They know when to speak, when to pause, how to stay grounded when the room gets heated. Even when Jesus wept, he was aware of his emotions, but never controlled by them. That's emotional intelligence. That's emotional intelligence. This is important. These layers, understanding these layers. Number 1, self-awareness. Number 2, self-regulation. Number 3, empathy. Number 4, social skills. They matter because you can't develop emotional intelligence while you're living in emotional illusion. You can't do that. And that's why it calls for a detox from the illusion. Because social media has convinced us that emotional stability looks like perfection. But see, real healing looks like process. That's why I was mentioning earlier about a situation when it came to trying to reconciliation. What is reconciliation? Reconciliation is you take something bitter and make it sweet. The two components of allowing or making reconciliation possible. It's not always necessary or guaranteed if somebody asks for forgiveness. You're not obligated to reconcile. But if you're going to go through that quote unquote process, it requires time, number 1, and number 2, maturity. That is ability. Real healing looks like process. That's why I mentioned earlier about this situation, that when it was time to maybe bring about healing and it was time for me to share and go through my process, it got aborted. I'm not trying to hear all of that. I already said what I said. I don't want to go down my past. It's crazy work. This society is something else. It is. That's why so many people are so wounded. But I want to help bring about ability to be able to heal and be better. So what you have to do is you have to detox yourself. Set about loving a real life, not this imaginary illusion we see online. Many of us, when it comes to dealing with pain and navigating the things that's inside of us, there is a tendency to take on a victim mentality and entitlement because sometimes we think just because we've experienced certain pain that makes us special. Forgetting the fact that a lot of people have experienced what we've experienced. We've all been there. That's ultimately what I'm saying. In some shape, form, or fashion, we've all been there. However, it is our responsibility for how we handle it. It's our responsibility. One of the big pictures is that you have to get connected to God, press through the hurt, and heal so you can actually feel again. See, if you keep comparing your healing to someone else's highlight reel, you'll stay broken trying to look whole. I was having a conversation with somebody the other night about this, about healing moves a person towards wholeness. And they were just like, well, wholeness is relative. And I said, I beg to differ. I said, I'm not disagreeing with you. We just have two different perspectives. Wholeness, when a person becomes whole, that means you're able to have integrity in all capacities of life. Doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means I have the ability to maintain who I truly am and desire to be, regardless of being hurt, happy, sad, whatever. However life flows, I'm able to maintain who I truly am, and who I'm supposed to be. Ultimately, what I'm saying is that you have the ability to say what you mean what you say, and here's the kicker, actually able to do it. And see, that matters because even when it comes to rebuilding real relationships, the goal of emotional maturity isn't isolation. It's integration. Yeah, that's what it is. The detox is not to disconnect, but to be able to reconnect with people who see you, know you, and love you. Because I'm telling you, when you go through certain things, it can be difficult in reconnecting. I was laughing with somebody the other day. I said, I done been through so much stuff this year alone that, well, these last few years, but particularly this year, I said, if somebody tell me they love me, I flinch. Woo! Yeah, so I mean, that L word, oh man, you get that. But that's why it's important to detox. This is why I'm talking about all of this. Sometimes we have to give ourselves grace in being broken. Being broken is part of our humanity. It's part of being human. And some of us have to give ourselves grace in understanding that it's not weak to feel pain. We're actually designed for it. And I'm sharing this because God, He built our system to process grief, hurt, and much more little by little, not all at once. So when we try to hide what hurts, it doesn't disappear. It just hardens. It just hardens. And healing doesn't happen in isolation, disconnection. That's why when we cry, the tears are meant to be seen because connection is a part of how we heal. See what I'm saying? People try to hold back crying. Don't want to see no tears. And I understand we have some manipulative people. You know, they call them crocodile tears. You know, it ain't real. But there's some people right now, why even listening to this, just afraid to really cry and allow that. And I understand you have to have a safe space. I get that. But see, those tears allow us to be able to feel and let others in. And that's why we cannot rush to try to move on from certain things that's going on inside of us before we move through it. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's why I say detoxing is not to disconnect, but reconnect with people who actually see you, who actually know you and actually love you. As I shared a while ago, emotional maturity isn't isolation, but integration. So you have to open your heart again, trust again, and build again. And this is where emotional intelligence come into play. So you do what you need to do to make sure your life is full of people who love you, care about you, and know you. Emotional intelligence shows up in how you handle the people who mishandled you. See, that's why the scripture says, be angry and sin not. It doesn't say don't feel. It just says don't fall. Yeah, don't fall. Don't fall. So how do we move from self-control, exercising that muscle of self-discipline, to self-mastery? I'll give you an example. It looks like this. Self-control is a seed. Emotional management is the soil. And emotional intelligence is the fruit. It means our emotions are meant to serve us, not sabotage us. And if you tie it from a biblical aspect, which I may do a Bible study on this on my other channel, but really emotional intelligence is really spiritual intelligence. It's the art of staying rooted while the world around us reacts. Leaders leak what they don't manage. And if you have any type of vision today and can see, it's a lot of people that are leading while bleeding, and much more. So I want you to ask yourself this week, where are my emotions running the show? Where am I letting offense, insecurity, or pride take the wheel? You know, as I shared before, before us leaders, people in this arena try to fix the world, we have to fix what's going on inside of us. Emotional intelligence isn't about being strong. It's about being still enough to hear what your emotions are trying to teach you. That's why I tell people often, I said it on here before, is that emotions have no sense of direction. So if you're not guiding them to God, He can't govern them. And that's why responsibility is so important. Even when I mentioned about how emotional intelligence is spiritual intelligence, people that are spiritually mature are responsible. You respond. That's a big picture moment. That's what I'm trying to show you. You respond to situations. People that are spiritually immature, emotionally, lacking emotional intelligence, you'll find them that they're greatly irresponsible. Victimhood, entitlement, the list goes on and on and on. I used to share this example with people that just emotionally immature. It's like getting bit by a dog and you running after the dog, seriously running after it so you can try to bite it back. Not catch it, but I want to bite it back because it bit me. That's how society is now. People are just barking at each other, trying to bite each other. Because there is something lacking, which is emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence. If this episode has hit you like it hit me, then I want you to share it with somebody who's growing, healing, and learning to master what moves them. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the social media, YouTube, Facebook. I'm working on Spotify and Apple Podcasts right now. I have other places. I'm going to get that in the description box. You can check all that out in the description box. But as always, keep building, keep believing, and keep becoming everything God has called you to be. All right, people, I'm out.